God, I really hope the start to this show is just me making a guttural sound. Just, I feel like that just sounds like Arnold after a while.
My back.
Shit, that man hasn't been in movies for too long.
Yeah, what's he doing?
Who doesn't love Arnold Schwarzenegger?
When was the last time you saw him in something that wasn't yet another soft reboot of the Terminator franchise?
God, by the way, can they stop doing that? Just
stop it.
In general.
The next one, they're like, well, it's okay because the next one, it's going to be it's going to be James Cameron.
Have you seen someone try to? Oh God, what was it? I think it was a Red Letter Media attempt to break down the timeline of Terminator and just being like, how does any of this make any semblance of sense? It's absolutely ludicrous. There are I want to say there are 4 different time paradoxes that happen because of the way their timeline works and because it doesn't follow the many worlds theory. All of these are technically in the same world and the same universe, all stuck into itself. It's something absolutely patently ridiculous. It's because it's them modifying the same timeline so continuously that it's unrecognizable.
No, that's a completely fair assessment of the timeline. With the Terminator timeline, it's always been less about what makes sense from a sci-fi perspective and versus what makes sense from there is no fate but what we make perspective. Which,
fine, but considering the series tried to start out with a semblance of hard science fiction combined with neo-noir, and then Judgment Day happened where it was honestly one of the best sequels. It changed the genre from noir, but it became one of the best sequels ever written into movie history.
Right, and in that kind of classic James Cameron fashion. Yeah. You go in and the second movie is a different genre than the first movie. Which,
Alien to Aliens does that.
Which actually ties into the subject of today.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're going to be talking about 1986's The Big Trouble in... I almost said The Big Bang Theory. Someone shoot me right now.
God, all right. Can that be the lead-in? Can just you failing at saying the actual name of what we're talking about be our lead-in?
3,
2,
1. God fucking damn it. So, Big Trouble in Little China came out in 1986, July of 1986.
You do realize we missed our intro lines, right?
Oh, hi. I'm John.
I'm Andrew.
And I am tired as balls.
Exactly.
But I'm trying to hide it underneath my announcer voice.
It's doing pretty well, I gotta say. You would make for... I imagine all baseball announcers are in a constant state of hungover.
Bye-bye, baseball!
Just a constant state of they've been drinking, they enjoy their job, but they also don't want to be here. It obviously requires talent. It does. But at a certain point, how many people are listening to the announcer when they can see full well what the goddamn is happening on TV nowadays?
In the actual stadium, have you ever been to a Major League Baseball game in the stadium?
Yeah, tons of times. I love the Mariners.
I cannot hear the announcers. All it sounds like to me is just
the Charlie Brown parents might as well be as helpful the adults. I usually just keep track on the big board and then just paying attention from the sidelines.
No, yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
No, they're pretty much useless in the stadium.
The live announcers are pretty damn useless.
Yeah, and ever since Niehaus died, I haven't really cared all that much. So you're never gonna beat Time to Break Out the Rye Bread and Mustard Grandma. It's Grand Salami Time. That is one of the best lines written in Major League history by a man who just had an amazing ass voice. For reference, for the one person outside of the Seattle area who's not, who's listening to this, there was an announcer for the Seattle Mariners who every time a grand slam was hit would yell, "It's time to break out the rye bread and mustard, Grandma. It's Grand Salami Time," which is just a fucking amazing line. Welcome to our tangents, everybody.
That's just so funny and stupid and...
Oh, it's funny because it's stupid.
Right.
Like, it's a good line, but it's also like, really?
Well, also, like, it's...
Really?
Like, off the cuff is one thing, but it's when it becomes your shtick...
Oh, it's so good.
It's like, you know, how are you doing today? Oh, finer than a frog's hair, split 3 ways.
It's like all right, this is odd.
Yeah, like, okay, I don't think I'm going to talk to you anymore.
It's like running into a real-life version of Foghorn Leghorn.
Could you imagine how infuriating that would be?
You would probably just want to fry him at a certain point.
Oh, yeah. If he was, in fact, a giant rooster
he would
chicken
be very dead.
Yes, he would be so dead.
Anyway, we're talking about Big Trouble in Little China today, everybody.
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
Came out in July of 1986.
Is this one of those, is this that year that you were ranting about how many, like, amazing movies came out?
Yes.
Okay, this is another one from that year. All right, awesome.
Another fantastic movie that came out in 86, which actually may have led to the troubles that this movie faced. Aliens. Came out a couple weeks.
So that was the James Cameron lead-in.
It came out a couple weeks after Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh, that would ruin your box office numbers.
Anyway.
Okay,
so this is a movie that had a $25 million budget.
Shit.
And
in the 80s?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It grossed $11 million.
Fuck, that's a big deficit.
So it's a mildly interesting story, the development of this movie.
Okay.
The original version of the screenplay was written by 2 gentlemen who had never sold a script before.
Really?
In Hollywood.
Oh, so this was their first movie.
And the thing is, their original version of it was a story that was a kung fu Western movie that took place in the 1880s.
Okay. I'd watch that.
The problem that they ran into was that the sort of supernatural kung fu elements, the studio felt that they were asking too much of the audience, and also these guys were not good screenplay writers. Everyone who looked at the script was like, "This is unreadable." But the studio bought the premise.
I love how that's like the second thing of like, we didn't know whether we like the mystical elements. Also, you're shit at this.
Yeah.
I imagine the studio heads leaving that to the end, just like, we don't know if they'll get this. Also, this is really bad.
So what they did is they contracted W.D. Richter to do a rewrite of
you're gonna need context for that. I don't know.
W.D. Richter was the director of Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, the other movie that you've been trying to force me to watch.
Yes.
Okay. The other movie I will probably watch only due to this show and nothing else.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to happen.
I mean, you already got me on The Last Starfighter, so I'm impressed.
So this movie was rushed because shortly after they went into production, they discovered that Eddie Murphy's next film was going to be The Golden Child, which had a kind of similar...
Stealing its thunder, yeah.
Yeah, it's in that same vein of sort of like Asian exploitation, kung fu-esque, you know.
Sure. I think the formal phrase, at least during the 70s, used to be Bruceploitation.
There we go.
That
works for me.
The obvious reason it's a kung fu movie based off of the Bruce Lee phenomena that happened during the 70s, and then exploiting that post his death because America had this unsatiated need for kung fu films.
So this movie was directed or was produced by Fox.
Okay.
They wanted John Carpenter on there because he was
Carpenter?
Yeah.
The Thing Carpenter.
Yeah, you didn't know that? This movie was made by John Carpenter.
What?
Yeah. It's actually John Carpenter's favorite movie he has made. Yeah.
That's like if David Cronenberg also made like a romance movie. What the fuck?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, John Carpenter is mostly known for doing thrillers and horror movies.
And his most famous movie probably, I want to say outside of like Escape from LA. Or Escape from New York, yeah. Is sorry, I got those two mixed up. Is actually what year was it? 1984? Something like that. It was the movie The Thing, which is this body horror story about a alien entity that lands in Antarctica, and then it becomes this entire ordeal with this alien not being able to escape the wasteland of Antarctica, and the crew of this research station is trying to basically isolate it and murder it, and it is a amazing but supremely fucked up film.
Oh yeah,
it is. Also, all the effects are with claymation. It's glorious to look at. I can't remember.
Well, it's claymation for some. A lot of it is also just advanced animatronics.
Yeah, there's a really famous effects guy who was involved in that, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, but it's an awesome looking movie. That's like, to think of John Carpenter making an action movie is just like, what the like an action adventure kung fu movie.
The reason he signed on for this film was because he had always wanted to do a kung fu movie.
What the shit?
He had always wanted to do a martial arts film.
Sure, why not? I'm down with this. Fine.
Some other notable movies that John Carpenter was involved in: Assault on Precinct 13.
Yep.
Halloween.
Escape from New York.
The Fog. The Thing we mentioned. Starman, which is a Jeff Bridges film about an alien who is stranded on Earth and discovers what it's like to be human.
Oh, that sounds hilarious.
And then shortly after Big Trouble in Little China, he made They Live, which is the classic like satirical subversion horror.
Yeah. It was like the first really good subversion of all the horror tropes that had come into play because of John Carpenter.
And it stars what's his name? Rowdy
Piper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Also, if you're wondering where all of Duke Nukem's catchphrase come from, they come from that movie. No, I'm serious. Literally everything.
I believe you.
I'm come to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum. Yep, Duke Nukem quote from that film. It's an amazing movie.
So this movie, directed by John Carpenter, starring Kurt Russell, who was kind of a hot commodity at the time.
Kurt Russell was also in a couple other John Carpenter films.
Russell was kind of John Carpenter's guy.
That's fine.
Now,
that seems like a good idea. I was going to say, yeah, The Thing, Escape from New York, Escape from L.A., this movie.
Yep.
What else was on the list that he's in?
I think that might be it.
Well, regardless, fair enough.
He was in a lot of John Carpenter stuff.
He was also in a lot of John Carpenter's famous movies. Yeah. That's the big thing. Okay, keep going.
So I completely lost my train of thought.
It happens.
Okay, so
welcome to the show.
Kurt Russell, who was an up and coming actor at the time. The studio actually, their first choices were Jack Nicholson and Clint Eastwood.
Okay.
But they were both working on other things.
Fucking sure. How old was Clint Eastwood at this time? Oh, he had to have been like, because he's 70 now. 60. He has to have been at least 30 something. That would have been reasonable. Okay, fine. That seems rational.
So Kurt Russell's character is essentially he is a truck driver, like a semi-truck driver, who's just making his usual delivery of hogs to the San Francisco Chinatown market.
Okay.
And he ends up getting caught in the middle of this whole ancient holy war against a demon king.
In San Francisco's Chinatown.
Yes, because it turns out that underneath Chinatown are ancient catacombs and deep secrets.
Fuck, sure, why not? I'm down. That sounds ridiculous, but to be fair, I also love those kind of movies that just own the ridiculousness of it all. It's like, do you actually care that they're... No, shut up. This movie's fun.
So there are two sorcerer powers. You have Victor Wong, who you may remember from, well, this is going to be a terrible reference, but Three Ninjas.
That is a terrible reference.
Yes, he's been in a lot of other things, but that's the first one that always pops in my head.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
He's, like, we're talking classic Asian American actor.
Sure, yeah.
Notable for having sort of, like, crazy eyes.
Great quote.
It's true.
Put it on a box.
Yeah.
Three Ninjas. The lead Asian actor has crazy eyes.
No, like,
John.
Okay, it sounds bad when you say it like that.
No, of course it does.
He's got kind of like just like a lazy eye.
It's called context, John.
God damn it. James Hong is also in this movie.
Who is that?
James Hong. He plays the character David Lo Pan, who is the ancient sorcerer king demon guy.
Demon king.
Yes, and
sure.
James Hong is notable as the new Blade Runner movie just came out. He was Hannibal Chu in the original Blade Runner.
Oh shit.
He was also Jeff Wong in Wayne's World 2, which was,
I mean, sure. Wait,
Kachansky's
Hannibal Chew in the original Blade Runner. Who's the context of that character? Remind me.
Dude, it's been a while.
Oh my god, I just watched the new one on Sunday. It was excellent. I can't remember Hannibal.
He was also Chi Fu in Mulan.
I mean, that's sure, why not? That's context. I haven't seen Mulan in I think I saw it once when it came out and then never again.
Well, the thing is, he's one of those actors that just shows up in things all over the place.
Okay, so he's that kind of classic character actor where you can see him and probably know him from somewhere, you just don't know where.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that happens.
I'm going to see if I can pull some other ones out real quick before we move on.
Well, okay, so that's the context of the film, is Kurt Russell is a truck driver who just ends up in some kind of weird ancient war.
Now, here's the thing. Kurt Russell's character, Jack Burton, plays off...
That is the most American name ever. Jack Burton.
He plays off being this gung-ho Indiana Jones, John Wayne kind of guy.
Sure.
But he's actually kind of a screw-up.
Okay.
And actually, the words of...
I mean, you can probably call Indiana Jones a screw-up if you really look at it.
In the words of John Carpenter, he's a sidekick who thinks he's the leading man. So, this movie, one of the coolest things about it...
That is my favorite description of a character. I love that.
One of the coolest things about this movie is that the bulk of the actors in it are Asian American.
Oh, yeah. Going back to the Matrix diversity conversation.
Yeah, there's just a handful of white people in it, and good. Everyone else is Asian.
Okay, I mean, I would hope a movie called Big Trouble in Little China, was good on the diversity quotient.
So the actual even though Kurt Russell's the star of the movie, the leading character, the actual hero of the movie, is played by an actor named Dennis Dunn, who's been in some things, but you probably wouldn't recognize him. Okay, he's a very competent guy who runs a restaurant in Chinatown, but he also happens to be a martial arts expert, ex-military.
Because of course.
Yeah, ex-military, proficient with a sword.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Just throw everything on there.
The whole premise of the movie is that he is excited because his girlfriend, his fiancée, is coming from China. He finally was able to afford to fly her out, and she's going to be with him. And it's been so many years, the moment she gets off the plane, she gets abducted by a Chinese gang who's going to sell her into prostitution. And that's the trigger that sets the whole series of events.
Paint San Francisco in a pretty poor light. How's security? I don't know. Who are those guys? Whatever. They just abducted a woman.
Well, and the thing is, this is at the terminal gate. This
Come on, San Francisco airport security. Are you fucking kidding me? I know this was the days before we had metal detectors, but someone just boom, bang, out into the corner.
I mean, there were metal detectors.
She's off the plane. Not our problem anymore. Shit, that's fucked up.
But so the thing is, the reason what ends up happening is she, from the brothel, gets abducted by these demigods.
This poor woman.
Because she has green eyes, and it's supposed to be super rare, and it's the thing that will break the demon king's curse is to find a woman with green eyes. It's this whole kind of balls to the wall, crazy, stupid story, but it's a good framework on which just a fun movie is hanging.
Okay, now I'll believe that. This story sounds patently ridiculous, but I'm willing to buy in.
Not to mention, it's got that trademark John Carpenter soundtrack where everything is synth. And a lot of it
literally
by John
everything.
Carpenter.
I just imagine John Carpenter in front of a theremin for all of his recordings.
Well, not a theremin, but he definitely had a series of keyboards.
Just a very bizarre set of instruments. And you're like, how do you make music on this? Then an hour later, he has a soundtrack.
How did he do that? I gave him a set of spoons and a theremin. How did he pull it off?
He's just waving spoons in front of the theremin. Yeah, no, it's perfect. It turns out perfect.
No, so the funny thing about this actor Dennis Dunn, who I had no idea who he was outside of the context of this film, before they picked him, he was actually the first choice by the studio was going to be Jackie Chan, or it was John Carpenter's first choice.
Oh, Jackie Chan. Totally. This is the kind of movie where you say it and I'm imagining Jackie Chan in my head. Like, he would be the perfect person for this.
So Jackie Chan was going to do it, except for the fact that he had actually had a couple of movies that came out and bombed really hard in box offices.
Okay.
So he went back to focus on his Hong Kong film career.
Yeah.
And that's when he was working on Police Story, which is just classic Jackie Chan, like, at his best.
No, I was gonna say it because I'm trying to think of like what came out during this time. Like, was Chan just moving into? Because wait, this was 86, right?
Yes.
So this is before anything I know about Jackie Chan.
Yeah, like a lot of the movies that he did before that, he was trying to break out into American cinema, but nothing was really taking hold.
Okay.
And it wasn't until later with like when like the movies that he made in the late 80s, early 90s. Started coming over to the American shores in the 90s,
right?
Like Rumble in the Bronx and what are some of? You know, I'm going to stop trying to name names because
probably a good call.
Let's just say the classic Jackie Chan films that people know and love.
If this was a visual thing, we'd just have a list going in front of you right now. Yep. By the way, I looked up Hannibal 2. So in Blade Runner, he is the guy that Batty questions about his eyes.
Yes.
That is Hannibal 2.
Yes. Okay.
There you go. There is your Blade Runner context. I looked it up on my phone. It was bugging the shit out of me.
So, as mentioned before, the studio rushed this film into production.
Out of fear. So this was because of fears of
they didn't want to lose sales to Eddie Murphy's next movie.
Okay, so that was okay, but that was the prime motivator here was we don't want to lose money to this, so just plow it through production, whatever.
Yep. Okay. Like start to finish, the entire movie was like pre-production to finished product was done over the course of something like 8 months or something like that.
Holy shit.
Which is a super short period of time.
That's incredible.
But they beat The Golden Child by like 5 months to box office.
Good on them. They also lost $14 million.
No, here's the thing. Rush production.
Yep.
Fox didn't know how to market this movie.
Oh God, because, of course they didn't.
Like the leading person is not the hero of the movie.
No.
So they had this whole ad campaign that was just like, who is Jack Burton?
Oh God.
And then like that's it. Like, who is Jack Burton? No one fucking cares. No one knows who Jack Burton is. But
okay, so from the sound of it, he's not even the lead character either.
The movie follows him, but he's not the hero of the movie. The hero of the movie is
so friend. it's the Mad Max philosophy where he's the connecting thread, but he's not necessarily the main point.
Right.
Kind of like how in Fury Road the main character is actually Furiosa,
yes,
but like Max is just kind of there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like the journeys of Jack Burton as he randomly stumbles his way into shit.
It is exactly like that. And
that's fine. All right. Yeah, sure.
There's actually this great line in the movie where he's like, I'm feeling out of my element here, or I'm feeling like I'm being excluded, and they're like, you are.
I would have watched Big Trouble in I don't know. I'm trying to think of like another ridiculous situation he could have been in.
And the whole premise, much like the Buckaroo Banzai film, was that it was supposed to be setting up like these serialized things.
Of course it was.
Kind of like an Indiana Jones, Flash Gordon,
and speaking of which, the Flash Gordon movie fell on its face with this too. Why is that a consistent thing where like every time someone tries to do something that's serialized during the 80s, they just completely fall flat?
Well, it's
Last Starfighter tried this too and fucked up.
Well, and it's not even just the 80s. They did a lot more of it in the 80s, and I think it's because the Indiana Jones and
Indiana Jones was lucrative as shit during that time.
Like
Star Wars,
you had the George
really
Lucas and Spielberg properties. Those were the things that
everybody
were
was just trying to emulate that, I suppose. I mean, in fairness, they were making literal boatloads of cash. Like, I would imagine that the literal boatloads were, pretty appealing to people. But man, no one could get that formula right. Like, just off the top of our heads, Flash Gordon, Buckaroo Banzai, this movie, Last Starfighter. There were just so many random fuck-ups during this time in movies.
And those were movies that were meant to be serialized. Meanwhile, they shat out sequels for movies that weren't meant to be serialized, like RoboCop.
Why the fuck was RoboCop serialized?
RoboCop had three... Like there were two sequels made to RoboCop, and now a reboot, and there was also a TV series, a cartoon series,
my God,
Same with Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters
Ghostbusters was a random fluke of a movie. It was a very strange film when you look back. Did you know that most of the time, what was his name? Really, it's Bill Murray and God, what's his name? I can't think of it.
Dan Aykroyd?
Thank you. Aykroyd apparently believes all of that stuff is real. Yeah.
No, Dan Aykroyd is certifiably insane.
If any of you really want something fun to do with about 15 minutes, look up the Larry King Dan Aykroyd interview and just listen to the batshit insanity of it all. The man is thoroughly crazy.
There's a guy who just really needs some friends.
Apparently he told his kids that ghosts were real.
Well, the thing is, it's one thing...
What? But, like, no, that is so patently ridiculous to me that, like, as a father, this man is actively like, no, children, the dead spirits of things will come to you in the night.
I'm not going to discount his beliefs, okay? Like
sure, but damn, dude, dial it back.
It's less... I have less of a problem of a person believing in ghosts and more of a problem believing that, in this interview, he really just goes off the deep end, talking about how the events of 9/11 and all that
somehow stopped first contact.
Yeah, that is just certifiably insane shitball.
It's so nuts and it's so good.
Anyway, let's stop talking about that guy.
But no,
to tie it back into the topic,
yeah.
The effects house that made the effects for Big Trouble in Little China at the same time also did the effects for Ghostbusters.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have that to look forward to. The effects were great in Ghostbusters.
Yes. The effects, they're on that same sort of level where it's sort of like neon lightning kind of thing.
Yeah, but kind of like still kitschy and a little bit B-movie-esque.
Yeah.
I like that kind of stuff. Perfect. That'll be nice.
This... Do you have any other questions, or do you?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of going off on the fact that it's just how do you consistently because that sounds like a cool idea for a movie where it's just Jack Burton traveling the U.S. They probably made him a truck driver on purpose so he would drive to a different city and run into different random shit. Was that the intention? Because that sounds like that was probably the idea. Because who travels more across the U.S. than a truck driver? He probably just runs into random crap. That was probably what was meant to happen.
Well, I mean, they keep America running.
But damn it, John. But what I mean is you would drive up to, I don't know, Portland and run into a bunch of other crazy bullshit.
Or you could, be dropping off a delivery in Vancouver.
Yeah, maybe he does an ice truck thing and drives up to Alaska and runs into some, I don't know, some snow monster.
Some
and it's
Eskimos.
But also I don't know, some snow monster from Myth. It's I don't know, Jack Burton versus this thing now. Big Trouble in Juneau.
Big Trouble in Juneau.
I don't know. Sounds
I like
entertaining.
That sounds great.
But that actually sounds like kind of a cool idea for a serialized movie series. So it was probably just the horrendous box office figures that probably tanked it, right?
I mean, it made back less than half of its budget.
God damn it. How do you do that? That just seems like such a momentous fuck up. 11 mil off 25 is pretty intense. What was Last Starfighter's numbers? Because I remember those were equally atrocious for the same year. Last Starfighter actually did well. It was 15 to 28 mil, so it did make its money back and more, which means, damn, Big Trouble in Little China really fucked up.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kind of curious about the Golden Child's numbers now. Well, just to see how badly they lost to their perceived competitor.
Fair. At the time, Eddie Murphy was the biggest shit in Hollywood.
Yeah. God, that is a hell of a movie poster. That is an intensely arched eyebrow.
If I remember to do it, I will link it in the show notes.
Yeah, there you go. 25 for reference spent on that to 79.8 made domestically.
Oh my god.
Big Trouble got its ass
So they
kicked.
had comparable budgets then.
They had comparable budgets apparently. And most of that budget was probably spent on just getting Eddie Murphy in the door.
Oh yeah, unless it was Eddie Murphy specifically wanted to do it. Because at that time he was also doing Coming to America and
Eddie Murphy had a weird series of movies that just were out of fucking left field when you look at it back now, just what the hell was he doing? Not to say they're bad movies. No, it's just very bizarre to be
some of them are just damn classics.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting string of
back to Dan Aykroyd, Trading Places.
Yeah, Trading Places. Shit, I'm actually gonna look up his filmography now. Yeah, okay, Beverly Hills Cop so Trading Places into Golden Child into Beverly Hills Cop 2 into his Raw stand-up, then Coming to America, Harlem Nights, which was apparently nominated for a shitload of Golden Razzies, another 48 Hours, Boomerang, The Distinguished Gentleman, Beverly Hills Cop 3, and from here it just kind of goes down. Oh, and then Nutty Professor happened in 96.
Oh, God. And I think the Nutty Professor was the point where it's like, all right, your star has faded.
And by the way, your another random Mulan connection, he was also Mushu.
Oh. Huh.
I always forget about that he was the dragon in that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do that tongue thing.
God, I legit have not seen Mulan in like 15 years. When like Be a Man became a meme again, I'm just like, what is this?
It's a good song.
What is anything?
Also, once again, the connection, the voice of the general from Mulan, the Chinese dub of it is done by Jackie Chan.
Are we just gonna do like 10 degrees of 6 degrees of Jackie Chan and then like 6 degrees of Eddie Murphy? Connect Jackie Chan to Eddie Murphy in as many ways as remotely possible and go.
I mean, we already did the best one.
We already got 3.
They were both in movies that had the word cop in them.
There you go. God damn it, I was actually watching a video recently that was doing an analysis of why Jackie Chan didn't do well in America. And it was really interesting because it was looking at the analysis of his fights and the fact that in China,
I saw that same movie
in China,
video.
Well, wait, China?
Yeah,
China. In China there were
Hong Kong.
Yeah, there were Hong Kong movies. So in Hong Kong and China, they were more willing to follow. He had a lot more control, and he was a lot more willing because. If you didn't know this about Jackie Chan, he's a super perfectionist.
So to summarize what you're trying to get to, if I may.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
With Jackie Chan's movies, there was a lot of the camera is stationary and showing the action take place.
Right.
Whereas with American movies, it's a lot more like fast cuts and like pulling punches like on the cut so that it looks like a hit was hard. But it didn't. It
didn't actually land anything. But and that happens in action movies all the time. But the whole point is that Chan doesn't need that, and the rhythm of the movie is actually supposed to be this like bizarre, almost dance between him and his opponents, where like blows are hit, things happen, other things are happening, and all of this is supposed to be happening with a stationary camera, so you can kind of take it all in at once, and so you understand this whole dance between him and his opponents. But that doesn't happen in American movies, which is why it didn't resonate, which is why his movies didn't do well, apparently. Or at least he believes that.
I can't remember what it's actually called, but the actual style of production they're doing is called like the Chinese opera or something like that.
Yeah, it was based off of like certain versions of like Chinese plays that moved in that way. Like that was the partial basis for it. I don't know if that was exact, but I remember that point being brought up. It was really fascinating.
But
I don't know. I want to end on that one there for the moment.
Yeah, I'm tired. You're tired.
We'll call it part 2. I'm going to watch Big Trouble. We're going to watch Big Trouble in Little China, and we'll come back in a week with the other half. We'll go back to the old school format.
I'm going to end this on a high note. The next time, when this episode is released, we'll be at the point where I'm no longer working 2 jobs.
Hey!
Which means that
you'll have weekends again.
And you can look forward to me having a bit more energy.
Yeah.
And consistency.
There you go. These are positive things, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Later, guys.